The art of the deal.
Our primary focus will be trade and trade with Canada.
Canada and the U.S. aim to reach a trade deal day one at the G7 summit.
And if we start charging for it, we're going to unfortunately drive down uptake.
Calls for the province to reverse its plan to charge most Albertans for the COVID shot. And not so gnarly move.
That's the most utilized space in the park, right?
Why a portion of an inner city skate park is temporarily closed.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Camilla Di Giuseppe.
Good afternoon. The G7 is underway in Kananaskis. Late this afternoon, we learned the U.S. President and Canada's Prime Minister aim to reach a trade deal in 30 days. Canada's Prime Minister met with the U.S. President this morning for a discussion that lasted more than an hour. It focused on advancing the security relationship between the countries and trade negotiations. Donald Trump says a deal removing tariffs from Canadian goods is achievable, but how the two leaders plan to resolve the trade dispute is unclear.
I've always been a tariff. It's simple, it's easy, it's precise, and it just goes very quickly. And I think Mark has a more complex idea, but also very good.
Meanwhile, the UK and US finalized their trade deal at the G7 this afternoon. And it was a quieter day of protests in Calgary as the G7 officially got underway just 80 kilometers to the west. Tim Brooke has been watching for any disruptions and joins us live. So, Tim, today was relatively slow in the city center.
No, it definitely was, Camilla. We only saw about 75 people in one group protest in the city's municipal plaza, which is really a stark contrast to what we saw yesterday, where hundreds and hundreds of people took to that same plaza and then took to the street, representing 6 or 7 groups. Really, throughout all of downtown today, it was a pretty quiet day. We've learned at least 4 major companies have told employees to work from home while the summit is on. Advocacy groups 6 for Justice was the largest and loudest protest we saw today. Those here wanted to make their voice heard in support of Khalistan, a proposed independent 6 state in India. Now, they're against, of course, the G7 invite given to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Of course, relations between the two countries have been rocky since Mounties accused Indian agents of a prominent Khalistani separatist, of killing a prominent Khalistani separatist in 2023.
We want the G7 and Prime Minister Mark Carney to hold India responsible for transnational assassination repression, which we think is a direct attack on Canadian sovereignty and security, which must stop.
Now, that protest and any other protests happening in front of City Hall for the next 30 or so hours will actually be broadcast live to the leaders in Kananaskis. Tonight, I'm standing in the city's other demonstration zone, which is also being broadcast live. But, Camilla, we can tell you yesterday and today, we have yet to see any protests happen in this park along McLeod Trail.
All right, Tim, thank you so much. West of the city, another subdued protest taking place in Banff. A few dozen people gathered at the Finland's Banff Recreation Center this afternoon. It's the designated protest site in town. Different groups took turns at the podium to send their message to the G7 leaders, varying in topics from the war in Ukraine to the Hamas-Israel conflict to taking action against climate change. One group cycled in from Canmore to share its message.
We rode the legacy trail. It's kind of symbolically to ask the leaders, what is your legacy? And, you know, one of the biggest legacies of the last century are these parks themselves. Banff National Park, Kananaskis country. But what we know now is that the parks aren't actually big enough for large carnivores like grizzly bears. So we want our legacy to be having grizzly bears in the Bow Valley like another 100 years from now or 200 years from now.
Other than the protests and increased security in town, Banff's mayor says it is business as usual. She says Banff is accustomed to accommodating a high volume of visitors heading into the summer. Healthcare workers are calling on the province to reverse its decision to charge most Albertans for their next COVID shot. Mark Villani joins us live with more, and Alberta's Nurses Union, Mark, is calling it an extremely dangerous policy.
Yeah, that's right, Camilla. We're talking tens of thousands of frustrated workers from the United Nurses of Alberta, along with the Health Sciences Association of Alberta and the Alberta Pharmacists Association. They're all sounding the alarm here. These groups told us that this is a short-sighted move by the province without consultation that will risk people's lives and overburden our already struggling healthcare system. Now, the cost for a COVID-19 shot starting this fall is estimated to be around $110. That's the price all Albertans without a pre-existing condition, including healthcare workers, will have to pay if they want access to the shot. It's an announcement buried late afternoon last week that has pharmacists reeling. They will no longer be allowed to administer the shot. You can only get it at a health clinic. Many told us this move will disproportionately impact seniors and rural residents. Premier Smith defended that move today, arguing that 54% of COVID vaccine doses were wasted in the province, with over 1 million unused and discarded, representing about $135 million in lost resources. But with other diseases like measles already rampant in the province, many worry about a healthcare crisis.
The coverage would be far less. There would be less people taking them. And I think, what I understand, they'll probably end up in emergency getting treatment if they get infected.
Reducing the number of sites that will be available to provide the vaccine is potentially going to be a problem. It might mean that seniors or other people that are high risk are going to have to travel a lot further to receive the vaccine, which would be a barrier.
Alberta's opposition NDP also weighing in today, accusing the UCP government of putting budgets ahead of patients and failing to mention who advised or influenced this decision. The province says it has just ordered under 500,000 COVID vaccines and that some of the estimated $49 million cost would be covered through taxpayers paying for these shots. Camilla.
Mark, thank you. Measles cases continue to increase exponentially, with Alberta's total count now over 900. 53 new cases of the highly infectious and preventable disease were confirmed this weekend. The case count is the highest the province has seen in more than 40 years. Infectious disease experts say 2 doses of the MMR vaccine provides the best protection. The city of Calgary is facing a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit from Marda Loop business owners. The plaintiffs argue that extensive construction by the city since 2023 has caused dire financial consequences by restricting public access to the businesses. They want to be compensated $75 million plus special damages to be proven in court. The businesses say the city offered some money in 2022, but it's a fraction of the total loss. Silver Sage Beef and Diner Deluxe are leading this class action lawsuit, representing a group of business owners along 33rd and 34th Avenues between Crowchild Trail and 14th Street Southwest.
Our clients are basically telling us that they are selling their homes, they're getting second mortgages, and they're hanging on by a thread.
In a statement, the city says it's aware of the claim and are reviewing it. Marda Loop has been undergoing about $30 million worth of construction over 3 years, and it's set to wrap up by October 31st. A popular inner-city skate park has been partially closed to accommodate Cowboys Music Festival for Stampede, but local riders say they were never consulted. Fencing went up around one of the 3 parts of Cowboys Park, formerly known as Millennium Park. Festival staff began filling that section with scaffolding to build washrooms and a food court. The space has been used for festivals before, but the skate park was never impacted. A petition has now been launched to get the area reopened. So far, it's received around 3,000 signatures.
That's the most utilized space in the park, right? Like being the intermediate section, you know, it's kind of a balance between where the pros can ride, where the beginners can ride. It's kind of the most inclusive area in the park where, you know, all the features are pretty accessible to everyone.
The city says the closures were required for Cowboys to operate its music festival. The advanced bowls of the park will remain open. The rest of the skate park reopens July 30th. Let's bring in our Gina Martin with our first look at the weather. Lots of sunshine today. Great way to start the work week.
Exactly. Kind of a teaser of summer, which actually is later this week. It's kind of funny, though, when we actually get into the summer season, it's going to get wet out there. But yeah, gorgeous day out there. We see a lot of blue sky through one of our camera shots right now, sitting at 24 degrees. That's our high for today. The other side of the camera, though, is showing some clouds moving in. But so far, no watches and warnings out there. And I don't really anticipate anything to pop up over the next several hours here at least. However, getting really close in our radar satellite there, starting to see, again, some clouds making their way over the mountains there and building up some of that convective energy. So it could be an isolated shower here or there a little later this evening. So when we look at your 24-hour forecast brought to you by 5th Avenue Volkswagen, find more than what you're expecting at the all-new 5th Avenue Volkswagen. You will see that thunderstorm risk for the next couple of hours dropping down to 12 overnight, up to 15 by morning there, and then another high of 23 tomorrow afternoon with another chance of some thunderstorms.
Thank you very much, Gina. Still to come, the Cross Canada ride to empower those who live with type 1 diabetes. Next, we meet the man who grew up with the chronic illness and why he wants to make a difference, and why a lawnmower was no match for a hungry bear in northern Alberta. A fire in the northwest last night is considered suspicious. Calgary Fire was called at about 7:15. They arrived to smoke coming from a house on Home Road. The windows and doors were boarded up. The fire was in the basement and a dog was rescued. Despite rain soaking parts of the province this weekend, 24 wildfires are burning out of control. All but one of those out-of-control fires are burning north of the Edmonton region. A new fire detected this morning west of Rocky Mountain House is believed to have been started by lightning. The weekend rain did help crews make progress on fires in the Grand Prairie, Slave Lake, and Lac La Biche forest areas. More rain and cooler weather is needed for some of the larger fires. Officials are keeping watch on the high-level forest area.
We do have an out-of-control fire that's burning there, the Sousa Creek wildfire. It's affecting communities. It's very close to infrastructure, so we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we can contain that wildfire. It did not receive the amount of rain that we did in, say, the Slave Lake forest area this weekend.
The high-level forest protection area is still under a fire ban. A number of bans were lifted thanks to that rain. And let's bring in our Gina once again. Look at the weather. Again, always like a tale of two different types of like weather stories, right? And it's tricky sometimes.
It really is. And yeah, the next couple of days, that wildfire risk is going to be really important to keep an eye out for, because we'll continue to see those dry conditions throughout the next couple of days here, really until we wrap up spring. And then the wet weather moves in. But right now it is Gulf weather when we take a look at our Skywatch weather camera here. Lots of people enjoying being outside today with these gorgeous temperatures. I mean, look at it out there. 24 degrees at the airport. Downtown is at 25 right now. Same over in Winsport, and over in Strathmore you're at 25 degrees, and you can get your daily dose of greens at Serenity Golf Club, just 20 minutes east of Calgary. So yes, good golf weather really for the next couple of days here. We just have the thunderstorm risk possible for the next couple of days. Even right now, seeing a little bit of those puffier cumulonimbus clouds moving over the mountains, tracking closer to Calgary. When we look at those temperatures south of the city here, 26 in Lethbridge, same in Medicine Hat, and you're sitting at 25 in both Brooks and Drumheller. In the central part of the province, very similar temperature values out as well. Most areas in the low to mid 20s currently. Let's take a look at the bigger picture here across the country. Again, we're all in good company. A very stable day out there. Nothing super disruptive. Tomorrow, a very similar setup. We're aiming for a high of 23 in Calgary, up to 28 in Lethbridge, and 29 for Medicine Hat. So no watches and warnings so far, but like I mentioned, just along the foothills there, starting to see a bit more of that convective activity tracking over to Calgary and to the east of the city as well later this evening. But I kind of previewed this in our last hit here. Lots going on in the Pacific Ocean right now around the Gulf of Alaska. We have two low pressure systems. We have this one closer to the BC coast and this one more out in the ocean there. And they're working in tandem. The question is, will they join forces and produce this super low pressure system, or will they maintain both their own systems and just steer each other? If that happens, regardless, we're expecting rain from that Pacific system later this week. But the couple of days ahead of it, or before it, I should say, are pretty consistent. Like I mentioned, we could see that thunderstorm activity in central Alberta in the afternoons here. Temperatures in the low 20s in the central part of the province, gaining heat and more high pressure and stability the more south in the province you go. So the next 3 days looking pretty stable and consistent out there. We might have those occasional thunderstorms or pop-up showers tomorrow and Wednesday. Very nice for Thursday. But yeah, the first day of summer, little bit of a bummer if you want to be outside with lots of rain moving in. But of course, that moisture is welcomed after several days of dry weather.
A man cycling across Canada hopes to empower those living with diabetes. Simeon King stopped in Calgary Sunday as part of his journey east. He says 300,000 Canadians live with type 1 diabetes. King was diagnosed with it when he was 11 years old. He said it was incredibly challenging to live with diabetes in a small town, saying it was a daily challenge to explain to others what diabetes was all about, and he felt pretty alone.
I didn't feel heard in the adversities that I faced every single day. And so there was all of these challenges growing up, and it was really hard for me to feel that support from other people. And I went to a charity event from I Challenge Diabetes, the charity that I'm supporting here today. And that was the first time in my life that I felt connected.
King left Victoria and is headed to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador with hopes of raising $100,000 along the way. Well, if you're still making your summer plans for traveling, we'll tell you how you can enjoy Canada's national parks and historic sites for free or at a discount. North American markets pop on the first day of the trading week. Joining me is Robert Geary, investment advisor with the Popowich Carmeli Advisory Group. Robert, did the G7 summit in K-Country have any impact on markets today?
Yeah, I think this was an interesting one, and all the eyes are obviously on the G7 summit, and there wasn't a lot of communication specifically on trade deals. This is more the pageantry around the meeting as a group of 7 to start off with. I think there was a lot more communication going to be happening. Trump did meet with Carney this morning. Nothing major came out of it, so we'll have to wait. I think a lot of more of the communication will come on the final days on Wednesday, as well as the U.S. Fed decision coming that day. So I expect Wednesday to have a lot more market-moving headlines from the summit.
All right. And Calgary playing a role in the national May home sales data in a good or negative way?
This is in a good way, and I think this is an interesting one. This is the first turn up in 6 months for home sales nationally, and Calgary had a big momentum number in that. So I think this is an interesting one. I think we're getting a lot more consumer confidence in these reports, saying, hey, the people are starting to go back to look at actual buying. I think there was a little bit of a lull here with all of this tariff talk. I think just people kind of put it to the sideline, but with immigration, the amount of people that moved into this country, we knew this was going to hit at some point, and it is starting to show up in the numbers, and the migration to Calgary is helping with those home sales.
All right, Robert, thank you so very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
WestJet says it's been the target of a cybersecurity attack. In a statement, the airline says the incident involved internal systems and the WestJet app. WestJet says it's expediting efforts to maintain the safety of its operation and safeguard sensitive data and personal information for both passengers and employees. WestJet hasn't shared further details, but is investigating alongside law enforcement and Transport Canada. The company insists operations are safe and unaffected by the cyber incident. Calgary Calgary police issue a warning for all homeowners. Here's Ian White with a look ahead to CTV News at 6.
Camilla, police say there's been an increase in break-ins while people were asleep at home. Coming up at 6, police share how many break-ins have happened in the last several weeks, plus steps you can take to increase the safety of your home. Also ahead, the province is facing lots of criticism for its decision to charge most Albertans for the COVID vaccine. Coming up at 6, why Alberta's Nurses Union says it's an extremely dangerous policy. Camilla?
Ian, thank you so much. If you are planning to visit any federal parks this summer, you're in luck. Admission is free until after the Labor Day long weekend. The Canada Strong Pass was announced by the Carney government as travel to the U.S. falls in the face of comments by the U.S. president about annexing Canada. From June 20th to September 2nd, admission is free to all National Historic Sites, parks, and marine conservation areas. Camping is discounted by 25%, and there will be free or discounted admission to museums, galleries, and on Via Rail. But some are concerned about the decision.
We are really concerned about our road capacity and our parking capacity. The last time free entry was implemented in 2017 for Canada's 150th, we saw record visitation. And so for us, we hope that this is a way for the federal and provincial governments to come together and look at how we can better serve Canadians coming to our national park.
The pass does not have to be applied for or displayed. You can just show up and enjoy. And if you already have a national park pass, it will be extended for an additional 3 months. Okay, a lot of sunshine today. Temperatures definitely on the warmer side. Right now in Calgary, we are sitting at 24 degrees, partly cloudy. Gina has more details after the break. A fireball lit up the skies above Edmonton just after 2 this morning. TELUS World of Science says when meteors get that bright, it usually breaks apart, which means meteorites may be scattered on the ground. Spectacular pictures there, Gino. One more look at the weather. Consistency for the next couple of days.
Yes, that is the key word. But there's still a lot that can happen. It's just consistently sunny, like we're seeing in this shot here. But on the other side of the camera, when you look at those mountains, we see those clouds move in. So we're currently at 24 degrees. That's our high for today. A little bit higher in the seasonal range there, but just a lovely, lovely Monday for us. And again, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, very similar setups. We're all holding in those low 20s for your highs. Maybe some thunderstorms in the evening, Camilla, but otherwise a really nice stretch of weather.
Gina, thanks so much. Alberta Fish and Wildlife responded to an unusual bear incident in the Fort McMurray area. Officials say at the end of May, a cinnamon-colored black bear was caught snacking on a lawnmower seat. It happened at a remote access work site. Fish and Wildlife say the bear kept coming back, so they captured the bear and used a helicopter to relocate it. Officials say this is a reminder that anything with a smell can be an attractant to a hungry bear. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.